Okay, good morning. Today's daf is daf Samach Tes. It's a very exciting daf dealing with fascinating topics. If an animal eats a basket and then expels that basket through its rectum when it passes excrement, does the basket have the status of excrement, or does the basket have the status of a basket still? It's one of the discussions that the Gemara will talk about. The Gemara will talk about if the barley for the omer came from the heavens. Could that also be used for the omer? Very, very exciting Gemara. And we were at the two dots on Samach Chesam Beis. The Gemara is going to have 4 questions of Rami Bar Chama, and it starts with the first. We are on Samach Chesam Beis, again dealing with this special mitzvah, the mitzvah ha'omer, the special omer sacrifice brought for the new barley, which permits the ingestion of new grain. Shtei halechem, as we saw, which is brought up from the new wheat, permits the usage of new grain in the Beis Hamikdash as a mincha. Rami Bar Chama asked the following question: Shtei halechem maushi atiru shelo kesidron. Would the Shtei halechem permit produce if the produce gets the Shtei halechem and it doesn't get the omer first? It got the Shtei halechem and then it got the omer. Hey Chidami, what's the case? Let's say you plant wheat after the omer. You planted an iyar before the shtei halechem. And then there's the shtei halechem brought when the wheat has already taken root. And then the omer. The omer is brought the next Pesach. So now after Pesach, can you start using that wheat? Is it that Kisidron Sharyan, that if you have omer and then shtei halechem, then you can use that grain for karbanos. In their order, then they become permitted. But shelo kesidron, if it was out of their order, because it was first shtei halechem and then omer, lo shayin, they're not permitted. Or maybe shelo kesidron nami shayin. Even if it was first shtei halechem and then omer, since there was both shtei halechem and omer for this produce, it becomes permitted. Amar Rabba, so Rabba tried to bring a proof. The verse says about the omer, Im takriv minchas bikurim. Right, the rest of the verse is La Hashem, Aviv kalui ba'esh, garesh karmel, takriv es minchas bikurim. It's called minchas bikurim, the offering of bikurim, because it's the first grain of the year being offered, and it's going to be offered in order to permit people to eat the first grain, the new grain, everywhere. The verse is referring to Minchas HaOmer. Mehechan ba, where do you get the Minchas HaOmer from? Minas Orim. You get it from barley, says the Brisa. So the Brisa asks, how do you know that? Atam Minas Orim, you're saying that the Minchas HaOmer is barley. Oh, ein element achita, maybe it's wheat. Answers the Brisa with opinion number 1. Rabbi Lezer says it's based on Gzera Shava. It says, Vim Takriv Minchas Bikurim Lashem Aviv Kalui. Right? If you're going to bring this Minchas Bikurim Aviv in the spring, when things have ripened. Right. And we know that when Makas Barad, in the plague of the hail, it also speaks about Barad. It speaks about Aviv. Hapista vas oranu kasa, the flax and the barley were devastated by the hail during the plague of hail. And then Pasuk says, Ki apista, ki asora aviv, because the barley was aviv, it was newly ripe. It was springtime for barley. So you see that what is connected to the word aviv? Sora. Hasora aviv. So now we have Gzeir Shava aviv aviv. So here too, aviv means sora, means barley. So again, Rabbi Lezer says, now aviv b'Mitzrayim, it says the word aviv in regards to the plague of hail next to the word sora, next to the word barley. V'namar aviv ledoros, and here in this verse about the Minchas Omer, it says V'im takriv Minchas Bikurim Lashem aviv kalui ba'esh, aviv for all generations, about the Minchas Bikurim, about the Minchas Omer. Ma'aviv Mitzrayim Sorim, just like aviv there was a reference to barley. That's how we know that the Minchas Omer, the aviv about the generations, is referring to barley. That's source number 1. Rabbi Akiva says another source. Matzinu Yachid. Let's think about sacrifices. An individual who brings sacrifices, sometimes he brings his obligation, it's wheat. Namely, if he's a minchas chote, he walked into the temple by mistake when he was impure. So he has to bring an offering, a mincha of flour made of wheat. Sometimes it's flour made out of barley. A sota, a woman who was accused by her husband of being disloyal to him, and there are witnesses that she did certain things that she shouldn't have done, and we're not sure about other aspects of it. So she brings up to the Beis HaMikdash a mincha of barley. So therefore, Tzibor, the nation as a whole, also brings menachos. So it should be the same way. We know that sometimes they have to bring a mincha of wheat flour. It has to be that mevi'in chovasim nasor. It has to be that sometimes they have an obligation to bring barley flour, just like an individual. Bim ato, if you're going to tell me that the minchas omer itself is wheat, and where do we ever have the community bringing an obligation of barley? So two possible sources. Davar acher, third possible source from Rabbi Akiva. If you're going to say that the omer is from wheat, then ain't shtei alechem bikurim. Then the shtei alechem, the two loaves, they're not going to be bikurim. They're not going to be the first. In what way are they the first? Because you already brought the first wheat for the omer. So how is shtei alechem the first? Shtei alechem has to be the first of the produce. So it must be that the shtei alechem was the first of the wheat, and the omer was the first of the barley. So now, that's the brisa. So now going back to our question. When we say that the new grain and new produce gets permitted to go into the Beis HaMikdash with the offering of Shtei Alechem, is it that it was Omer and then Shtei Alechem, or is it even Omer, is it even Shtei Alechem and then Omer to permit the new stuff? Then you said, if you're going to tell me, Shtei Alechem Shelo Kesidra, that when you had produce, and first there was Shtei Alechem on it, and then there was Omer on it. So even in that case, Sha'arya, the produce becomes permitted to go into the Beis HaMikdash. If that's the case, Nishkachas the makriv omer. You could still have a situation where the omer could be out of wheat, and the shtei alechem would still be the first. How so? You could bring the omer mishkachas the makriv omer mehanach to ashrish kodem shtei alechem. Bring the omer from produce that was planted after omer, but before the shtei alechem. So it's becoming, and it had shtei alechem on it, but it didn't have omer on it because it was planted after the omer. So that you bring as the Omer. Ubasar ha'omer di'ishtakit, after the Omer of last year. Okay, so that was for one set of produce. And bring the Shtei Alechem, mehanach di'ishrush kodem la'omer da'ashta, from things that have taken root before this Omer. Ubasar Shtei Alechem di'ishtakit, but after the Shtei Alechem of last year. So then each will be of different types of wheat. Why do you say you can't have a bikurim? It wouldn't be first if you're using wheat as the omer. It could be first, because the wheat of the omer was wheat from Iyar, and the wheat of the Shtei Alechem is wheat from Tammuz. So the Shtei Alechem is new. They could be very different. So the Gemara says no. Misamet bikurim lepeira kamin. And do you think when the pasuk says Shtei Alechem is bikurim, it means it's bikurim from new produce, of new fruits, the mizbeach karmina. The point is that it has to be new produce for the mizbeach. And therefore, if the omer is going to come from wheat, then the mizbeach has already eaten from the fruits of this year. We want the mizbeach to have the first of its new produce that it eats, has to be the Shtei Alechem. So therefore, it can't be that that's the case. And therefore, even if Shtei Alechem does permit things shelo kesidran, nevertheless, it could be that you would be able to, the Bryce's point, that you couldn't have an omer of wheat and then a Shtei Alechem of wheat is still true, because if you'd have an omer of wheat and a Shtei Alechem of wheat, then this year we would have the first things on the Mizbeach on the new produce is not going to be Shtei Alechem. The first thing on the Mizbeach was the omer. That was the point, but basically we haven't proven the question about, does the Omer permit it out of order? Maybe it does. Maybe the Omer can permit it even when the Omer is after the Shtei Alechem. So therefore we don't have a resolution to this question. Yeah?
Why do we even assume that we need the Omer for Mizbeach? I don't understand the assumption. When we say Omer is for the Hediot,
Right. Well, we see that it has an impact on the Mizbeach on the Mishnah, right? The Bidi Eved after the Omer. We saw that Bidi Eved after the Omer, you could bring from the new produce into the Beis HaMikdash. It's only lechatchila, only the mitzvah they have to wait for the Shtei Alechem. So you see that there is an impact.
So the Shtei Alechem is...
It furthers the deal. The Omer started to be matirit, and the Shtei Alechem continues that.
It's the Omer that actually counts. The Shtei Alechem is the mitzvah 100%.
Right. That's what we saw. That's what we saw, right? So now we're saying, what about out of order? And we don't have any answer to it. Mm-hmm. Now the second question of Rabbi Bar Chama. By Rabbi Bar Chama. Shtei Alechem, when we have this law that the Shtei Alechem that's put on Shavuos is permitting the new produce to go onto the Mizbeach. Hanatza Sharya, Hanatza Sharya. When we say that it's causing things to become permitted, what is it making permitted? Is it making permitted those things that have already gotten to Chanata? Chanata is when the petals of the blossom have fallen off, and you're left with the bulb of the blossom that's going to be the fruit. Or maybe even earlier, Hanatza, the first flowering, that also becomes permitted. So Gemara says, "My Hanatza, my Chanata." What's flowering and what's blossoming? If we're talking about the fruits, let's say the dates that are growing on the trees, and we're saying what is being permitted through the Shtei Alechem? Is it the dates that have blossomed, just gone out yet, or the dates that have, flowered, where they just went out, or the dates that have already blossomed, Chanata, right? Is it Hanatza the first stage or Chanata a later stage? I don't understand. You don't even need either. You don't need Hanatza, you don't need Chanata. Hashtash Rasha Sharya. Once it takes root, it becomes permitted. The fact that it took root before the Shtei Alechem makes the Shtei Alechem permitted. Hanatza v'chanata mibai, you have to ask me whether the blossoming or the flowering, even before the flowering, once it took root, it became permitted by the Shtei Alechem. Ella, so that's not referring to the fruits. Rather, we're saying like this. Hanatza de'ala v'chanata de'ala. Let's say you have a tree, a date tree, and you have leaves that are flowering and a leaf that blossoms. Is that considered as if the fruits have flowered or blossomed? So miyabi ki ashrasha. We say that the leaves of the fruit tree coming out is already considered like wheat taking root, or that's not as good as wheat taking root, and maybe the Shtei Alechem doesn't permit it yet. So Teiku, we don't know the answer to this question.
This is for what? This is for the
Bikurim. Bikurim. Yes, the Shtei Alechem. Correct. That's right. And the Shtei Alechem is what's permitting it. So the question is, which fruit does the Shtei Alechem permit? Does it permit the fruit that their leaves are already fully out? Or does it permit the fruits even where the leaves are just starting, Hanatza, even though the fruit didn't show up yet? The fruit's only going to come in Av or Tishrei.
So you cannot bring Bikurim if I have a field with dates. I cannot bring the Bikurim for my dates until the Shtei Alechem.
Exactly. The same way the Shtei Alechem permits grain to go onto the Mizbeach. The Shtei Alechem is what's permitting any new produce to go onto the Mizbeach, including fruits.
No, it goes to the Kohen.
Yes. Yes. The Shtei Alechem is the inaugurator. It inaugurates the new stuff into the Beis HaMikdash. All right, so now we get into a question a little bit off from Rabbi Bar Chama's questions. Again, we're going to have 4 questions from Rabbi Bar Chama. Now we have a question. What's the status of seeds that are in the ground? Do they have the status of ground, or are they still seeds? And that has a ramification to all sorts of halachos, where there's a difference between if it's in the ground or it's not. So, Rava Bar Chanan asked, Chitin shazarin b'karka. Let's say the seeds of wheat are planted in the ground. Omer matiron or ain't omer matiron? Will the omer permit them to be eaten or not? What's the case? Idash, if they've already taken root, tina. So then, of course, the omer permits it. We learned that in the Mishnah. Idalo ashish, if they haven't taken root, so tina. Then also we have a Mishnah about it. It's not in the Mishnah. If they took root before the omer, then the omer permits them. And if they didn't take root before the omer, Asurin at Shiyava Omer Abba. So then the Omer didn't permit them, and only next Omer will what grows out of these seeds be permitted. The Gemara says that you're talking about what's growing out of seeds. We're talking about the seeds themselves. Lo tzrich, what are we talking about? The chatzdinu. Before the Omer in Adar, these seeds, these grains were cut. Vizar inu, and then they were planted in Adar. Kodem Omer, before the Omer. Vas Omer v'chalaf alayu. The Omer went over them, and then the guy decided to change his mind. And in Nisan, he digs up his fields and he takes out the seeds from the ground. This is our question. This is the question of Rav Barav Chanan. Can he now, when he digs it up, can he take them and eat them? Because the question is like this: when you have seeds in the ground planted, it's considered that the seeds are in barrels and the Omer permits them. Or maybe when it's in the ground, now it becomes ground. The Omer doesn't permit ground. The Omer permits seeds. This is not seeds anymore. This is now ground. So the Omer couldn't permit it. All right. So now, once you have this question about Omer, let's talk about all sorts of other halachos where there's a difference between whether something is ground or not. The law of Onah, that a person who overcharges an unawares customer. So if he overcharges a sixth, if the thing is really worth 5 and he made the guy pay 6, so he has to give back that extra sixth. But that only applies to movables. It doesn't apply to land. So now you have this question about this grain. Is this grain movables? Or is this grain land because it's in the ground? So yesh len onah. Would there be onah if there was a problem in the sale? Oh, ain't len onah. There's no law of onah here. So what was the case? If the guy selling, or says, the Amrale says to the buyer, Shadai bashita, plant in this ground 6 kur of wheat. And he got paid for that. And then witnesses come and tell us that he only put in 5 kur. So 1 second. That's certainly a problem. That's worse than onah. Rabbi says, whenever customers have agreed on a certain weight, on a certain measure, on a certain number, even if it's not a question of a sixth in the laws of onah, if they said, I want a pound, and I got less than a pound, then it's a mekach, it's a false deal. The deal is done. Ella da'amarle, so it must be like this. He didn't tell him a certain number. He said, Shadaiba kedabayla. Plant in this field what this field needs. Plant in the field what the field needs. All right, so that's pretty vague. The witnesses come and say, he didn't plant what the field needs. He put into the field less than what it needs. So now we're talking about what's in the field. So what's in the field? Yesh len onah. Is there onah because it's considered as if it's in a barrel? To come out of shadi b'kadya dami, because it's as if it's in a barrel, and therefore yesh len onah. Since it was less than what it needed, and it was, let's say, a 6 less than what it needed, therefore there would be onah. You'd have to pay. Maybe batul gabi ara. Maybe it's considered attached to the ground. All right, another question, which would be the same. Again, the question is, seeds in the ground, are they ground or are they still seeds? Another nafkamina is, can it create an oath? We know einish ban ala karkos. If I claim that you owe me, an acre of land, and you admit that you only owe me half an acre of land, there's no oath. But if I say you owe me 2 shekel and you say you owe me a pruta, you need to swear about the difference between a pruta and 2 shekel. You swear about movables, you don't swear about land. So what about this? A claim and a counterclaim, as Jason says, if there's a claim and a counterclaim about seeds that are in the ground, is that a claim about ground or is that a claim about seeds? Is it seeds or do they become ground? So nishban aleim or nishban aleim, would they create an oath obligation or not create an oath obligation? Do we say kedushaji b'kadja dami, that kadja damya, that seeds in the ground are like they're in a barrel, kivatal dami, so it's movables, and then a claim and a counterclaim create an oath. Nishban aleim, you have to swear about them. Or maybe batalu agav ara, they're considered ground now. Or kimagar karidami, now they're considered ground. And therefore, nishban aleim, you don't swear about them. So again, the Gemara says for the 3rd time, another question we don't know an answer to. We're going to wait for Eliyahu Hanavi. So he's going to give us the answer. We don't know. All right, so now we have a very creative question. Rami Bar Chama, exactly for Baruch.
Perfect.
Rami Bar Chama asks the following question. We're talking about if things lose their status of wheat, once they're in the ground and they're not wheat anymore, now there may be ground. What about if they're in stools of excrement? Chitin biglali bakar, wheat that comes out of the rectum of a cow, because the cow turned it into stools. Or sorin shebiglali behema, or you have barley in the stools. Mahu, what's the status of this barley or wheat? Is it barley or is it stools? So the question, what's the question? If the question is it's still food and it could become tamei as foods that can become tamei, or maybe it's not food anymore. So you know we're into the Tosefta and Taharos. Chitin shebir'i bakar, wheat that's in the stools of a cow, usorin shebiglali behema, and barley in the stools of a goat, or any domesticated animal. If the person's planning to eat this wheat, then okay, that's not enough to make it into food. It's still not considered food. It wouldn't become tamei if someone touched it, because food can become tamei. But if he did more than just think that he's going to eat them, licked them, he picked out of the stools these grains, le'achila, in order to eat them, so then already mitzvah to masochem, then it's food. So we have an answer whether it's considered food or not food. It depends. If he did something, then it could become food. If he doesn't do it, just thinks, it's not yet food. So what's the question? Allah, the question is Menachos, in regards to using this grain for a carbon mincha. So what do you mean? That's not the question. You can never use this grain as a carbon mincha. The Navi Malachi says, exactly, it's inferior grain. If you bring to God an inferior animal, a blemished animal, you bring to God a stolen animal. If you bring it to your governor, would he be happy with you? Would he show you favor? So of course, this is disgusting. You can't use it as a carbon. So the answer is like this. What's the case of Rami Bar Chama? He took these seeds that had gone through the digestive tract of the cow, and he replanted them. And now he wants to bring a mincha from the wheat that grew out of these seeds. So now the question is like this. Is the reason why these types of kernels couldn't be used in a mincha because they're disgusting? But once they're planted, they lose their disgusting quality. They've sort of been redone. Or maybe the reason why you can't use such kernels for a mincha and why it's is because if the kernels of wheat have gone through the digestive tract, they're shvacha kernels. They're not so strong. So if they're not so strong, that's not for God. For God, you only give the best, not that which isn't so strong. So if it's not so strong when it went through the digestive tract, what grows out of it is also not going to be so strong. So hashtanami chusha, because it's a weak thing. A weak thing's not going to produce vibrant, healthy produce. It'll produce shvach produce, weak produce. Maybe it's no good. Teiku, again, we don't know the answer to this question either.
They can fertilize.
Yeah, I was going to say, manure, they use it for growth, but not for eating.
All right, and now the fourth question of Rami Bar Chama. Rami Bar Chama had the fourth question. Pil shebalak fifa mitzvahs. Let's say an elephant swallows a basket made of palm leaves, of the leaves of the date tree. And then he expels it through his rectum. Mahu, what's the status of this basket? The question is Lamai. What's the question about? If the question is that the basket was impure, and maybe through going through the rectum, now it loses its identity as a basket, and therefore it's not impure anymore. So we have a Mishnah about this question. The Mishnah says, mere thought is enough to make something a vessel so that it could become tamei. Let's say there's leather that was cut, and a guy decides, I'm using this leather now as a placemat. Okay, now it became a vessel. Now it can become tamei. If something falls on it, it made it tamei. But if something had already been decided to be a vessel, it only leaves being a vessel through an action being done to it. Let's say breaking it, etc. So here, there was no action of breaking it, because the elephant swallowed it whole and it came out whole. So it should still be able to become tamei. So why is it like this? Our question is not about a whole basket. Our question is about the leaves of a lulav. He swallowed lulavim. He ate lulavim. He swallowed lulavim, and they came in and they came out whole. You now see the lulav whole. It came out of the elephant. And somebody went through the waste that came out of the elephant, and he made out of these lulavim that came in the waste, he made out of it a basket. So now the question is like this: is this a basket made out of lulavim, or is this a basket made out of stools? What's the status? What makes something a stool? Is it that it went through the intestine, or is it that it was broken down and it smells bad and it doesn't look like the way it was when it came in? That's the question. Now
You're on
now
tape.
we made it into a basket. Do we say that the leaves were digested, and therefore havole, therefore it's considered kichlei glalim, a basket made out of stools, which were to dry out wouldn't have the ability to become tamei. Uklei adamo, or like a basket made out of mud, and ein makablim tumah, they don't become tamei. Damar mars, we've learned klei avanim, baskets made out of vessels made out of stone. Klei glalim, baskets made out of excrement. Klei adama, baskets made out of mud. Ein makablim tumah, they don't have the ability to become tamei. Sofrim, neither biblically nor rabbinically. Or maybe it's not considered to have been digested at all because it's still whole, and therefore it's again a basket made of leaves, and it could become tamei. Says the Gemara, maybe we can prove an answer to this question. If Shatlea can prove it from a terrible story. Ula said this story in the name of Reb Shimon, the son of Rabbi Yitzchak. It was once where wolves swallowed two young babies on the other side of the Jordan River, and then Nebuch, these babies came out of the rectum. So the question was the flesh of these babies kazayis min hames? Did it have the status of a dead body, or did it have the status of stools of a wolf? Stools of a wolf don't have tumah, but a dead body would have tumah. So what did the Chacham say? They said that the flesh is no longer human flesh. It's now has the status of stools, and therefore it doesn't create impurities. So what do you see? That whatever goes through a digestive tract is considered a stool, even though it still looks like it was when it went in. So maybe there's a difference. Maybe there's a difference between leaves and flesh. Shiny basar derakik. When you talk about a baby swallowed by a wolf, the flesh of a baby is soft. So maybe that's considered digested because it went through the tract. But leaves, maybe not. So Gemara says, maybe we can prove from the end of that story. The timos atzamos, they said that the bones of these babies did create impurity. So you see that things that are hard are not considered digested. So if they're not considered digested in regards to creating the impurity from a corpse, therefore the leaves of lulavim are not considered digested, and a basket made out of leaves of lulavim that went through the stomach of an elephant would still be a tamei basket. Make out of it a vessel, it could become tamei. One says that's not a proof because shiny atzamos da'akushitve, but bones are very hard. So bones are very hard. They are not considered digested because they went through the digestive tract. But leaves are a little bit softer. Lulavim are a little bit softer. So maybe lulavim are considered digested. And yet again, we don't have any answer to the question of Rami Bar Chama. Yeah, question.
So from all this, I don't want to see all this Bar Chama question, but I mean, if he spits it out, it's no question. It retains the status.
Spits it out from the front.
Yeah, the
Yes.
whole question is about going to the digestive system.
That's right. Now, a very, very interesting question. This is a very exciting question. Boy, Reb Zev had a question. Chitim sheyardu ba'avim. If wheat comes down from clouds, the clouds. I remember there was this like children's book, Raining meatballs and spaghetti or something. So this is a Gemara in the Masechta Menachos. Wheat that comes down from clouds. Mahu. What's the law? So the Gemara says, Lamai, what's this question about? Ila Menachos, if you want to use the wheat that came from the clouds for a mincha, Amai lo, why wouldn't you be able to? Of course you could use wheat that comes from clouds for a mincha. Amazing. So Gemara says, Ella, the question is, L'shtei alechem. What about using it for the offering of Shtei HaLechem? The offering of the Shtei HaLechem, the Torah says, Mimoshvu Seichem, from your residences. Taviu Lechem Tnufa, you'll bring a bread of waving. Shnei Esronim, so L'stiyena Chametz Tiafena, and it is Bikurim LaHashem. In a certain way, the first to Hashem. For Shtei HaLechem, that's the question mark. Since Hashem said Mimoshvu Seichem Amarachmana, from your residences, maybe that only means La'afuki D'chutz La'aretz Lo. It just can't come from outside of Israel. But in Israel, from clouds is fine. It has to come from your residences. It has to come from your farms. The clouds are not your farms. And therefore, then what comes from the clouds would also be no good. So Gemara says, is there such a thing? Is there wheat that comes from clouds? So Gemara says, there is. With the Arabs. Adi Taya. There was an Arab caravan driver. His name was Adi. He once got a pile of wheat, a tefach tall, parsa, from the clouds over 3 different parsos. The clouds dropped for him lots of wheat. So,
but that didn't come from the clouds. It ultimately came from the earth. And then, I read the note here that basically then the clouds swept the sheep full of wheat.
That's Rashi's explanation. If you look at Rashi, Rashi says, Shiyadu Bavim, they came down with the clouds, Imam Matar, with the rain. Sheshasu Avim Burukianus, when the clouds in the Atlantic, in the ocean, picked up stuff in a storm, they swallowed a boat filled with wheat, and then when they dropped out water, they dropped out the wheat. However, Tosfos
wants to know where
says it a little bit differently.
It can't be chutzalar. It can't be. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Unless the way you explained it. You said clouds in Israel, clouds.
But this is what Tosfos says. Tosfos says it's miracle wheat from clouds. Look at the Tosfos. Chitim sheyadu ba'avim, wheat that comes down in clouds. Pirish b'kuntris sheshasu b'ukianus ubalu sfina malei achitim. They swallowed some boat that was carrying lots of wheat. Kashal Rabbeinu Tam says, I don't understand that. If it's from outside of Israel, how could you have Shtei HaLechem just because it came through a cloud? If it came from outside of Israel, the Torah says Mimosh V'Seichem, from your residences. And if it is in Israel, of course it's okay. It was a miracle that brought it down. I think, Gabriel, the earliest time for Talis and Tefillin is probably a little bit later, no?
Paul's our timekeeper.
What's our time?
Paul's good at that.
Maybe even be a little bit later than that, because that was really
Another couple days.
6:20 for Talis and Tefillin, probably. 6:20 for Talis and Tefillin. So we'll put on the Talis and Tefillin. Yeah, once you're in the middle, you just do it. You'll make a bracha on the head tefillin, and you'll make the bracha
Then
later.
you say Yad, and if you forget, you put it on the rope.
Okay, so again, this is a question of the wheat from the clouds. According to Tosfos, is miracle wheat. According to Rashi, it was wheat from a boat. Okay, another question. By Reb Shimon ben Pazi. Reb Shimon ben Pazi has a question. Shibolas, let's say you have a stalk, Shivia Shlish, Kodem LaOmer. It already grew a third before the Omer. But then V'akra, then he uprooted it, V'shasla, and he replanted it, Li'achar Omer, after the Omer. V'osifa, and it keeps growing. So now, what's the law? Do we look at the core? The core was already permitted. And therefore, Sharia Omer, even though it grew more, the Omer permits it. Or maybe Basar Tosefas Aslina. Now that it grew more, it changed, and now it has the status of how it grew. And therefore, Achiyav Omer Abba. You have to wait till the next Omer. Says the Gemara, Tiv Shutlei, we can resolve it. Mehadza Amar Rabavo, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, from Rabavo, so name Rabbi Yochanan. Yalda, if you have a new tree, it doesn't yet have 3 years to it, so its fruit is Orla. Shesibcha Biskena. And it was mixed up, grafted together with an older tree. Uva Peros. And in this Yalda, there's already some fruit. Afilosif Masayim, even if this fruit has grown 200 times more than what it was when it was just a separate young tree. Aser, you're still not allowed to eat the fruit. So what do you see? You see that we do not you're not allowed to eat it. So what do you see from here?
Retains its status.
That's right. We don't look at how it grew. We look at what it was when it started. It maintains its status. Similar question. Batzel, if you have an onion, sheshaslo b'karam, planted in a vineyard, and nekar karam, if the vineyard is uprooted, afilu hosted b'masayim, even though the onion now grows 200 times more, it stays prohibited because we look at how it began, and that is the source. So that's the bottom line. We follow the ikar. So the says, no, he gufa kami baile. This is the question that he had. Is it that we always follow the source regardless of whether that's going to be a leniency or a stringency? Maybe they're not sure. And in these cases, they went to the strict side. We wouldn't do this as a leniency. And again, this question as well, we don't know the answer. Rabbi Chanani ben Akashia Meir Ratzak Kadosh Baruch Hu L'Zakas Es Yisrael. If you chachir b'lam Torah mitzvah shenam atay chibetz l'matzit ko yagdil Torah v'yatir.